Welcome to another episode of the Low Point Podcast, where we use the 5 pillars of better golf to help golfers unlock the next level of their game. I'm Ryan, here with my co-host Nick, and we understand that every good swing and every golfer's journey has a low point. Today, Nick and I are going to cover a few different topics. 1, some breakthroughs we've made in our fitness and game prep. 2, a recent trip I took out to Southern California and a round that Nick and I played at the vaunted Saticoy Club. And 3, talking about breaking through plateaus and set some expectations maybe for what we want to talk about in the future, the rest of the year. So without further ado, Nick, let's jump in. I know you wanted to talk about some breakthroughs in your game here today, so I'm very excited to hear. Where do you want to start?
I feel like what we talk about in the very first episode of our podcast about marginal improvements aggregating to, bigger results has really come to fruition, where a lot of the things we talked about, the mental and the strategy parts of the game, I've been able to deploy on the course, and that's allowed me to consistently break 90 for the last, 4 or 5 rounds that I've played. That has obviously lowered my handicap pretty meaningfully. I think I started the year at around a 15.9 and I'm now at a 13.6. So big improvement in the handicap, not obviously where I wanted to be when I started the year, and now I'm sort of realizing how silly of a goal that was. But
hey, dream big. You got to dream big. If you don't believe you can do it, then you're not going to be able to do it.
And it's interesting, you and I, we've talked offline about like if there's anything specific about the game, and it's not. And I think that's actually what I like the most about this feeling of breaking through, is that it doesn't feel like I'm going out and playing necessarily the best golf, or I'm hitting the putter any which way that I wouldn't be able to replicate. It's just these are easy things to do that don't even really come into the mechanics of golf, but more understanding my own mechanics and applying it to the golf course. So that's been a big breakthrough. I think like the strategy part is kind of what I alluded to there, and then the mental part, like just having the mental fortitude and sticking with it. I think we could talk about. I want to talk about this when we get to Saticoy later, but for me, that mental part really helps if I know the course and I know what's coming next. So if I feel like I've made a mistake, if I bogeyed or double bogeyed a hole that I want to par or hit bogey on, knowing what's coming next and how to navigate the course from that point on is a huge advantage from a mental perspective. So we can talk about that a little bit more when we get to Saticoy, but I want to hear about your breakthroughs as well, Ryan.
Yeah, this year has been a big year for me in terms of my approach to the physical side. I think I had a stage 1 of this a few years ago when I decided I was going to do golf-specific training and did some things there. But after running into this issue with my hip, this year I've put all of my off-course time and energy into trying to figure it out. I think I've hit the range once this year and played a number of rounds. I'll tell you how I've got it set up. You'll hear a lot of pros. They talk about, their team. Their team includes their maybe sports psychologist, to your points on the mental game. It includes a trainer of sorts, maybe a chiropractor, maybe like they're the same person. But anyway, I've kind of taken that approach and said, at least on the physical side, saw a physical therapist, golf-specific guy. It's been really helpful for strengthening some of the muscles around my hip and in my legs that I was probably ignoring. Like, I got to a point where I was still making progress, but not as much progress. So I added in a chiropractor, really sports-focused guy. That was helpful as well. But again, kind of got somewhere and didn't get back to that next step. The last piece feels really silly saying this, but added in a massage. And I got to tell you, if I hadn't already put months into, hitting the gym and going to the chiropractor and getting treatment in other ways, I wouldn't have gone to the massage because it feels a little too self-care, if you will. But it has made a meaningful difference in what I can do with my golf swing. I got to figure out how to do this over time and make sure that the results of those massages last. But I've got a team now, Nick. I've got a group of guys I've been working with, and it's unlocked some things. I got a long way to go. I still have the open question of is there real structural issues in there? But I've been getting through impact, getting through the ball in ways that I haven't been able to in quite some time.
And maybe for like our listeners, just like what walk us through, I guess, that routine sort of entails, because you think about everything you described. That's a lot of commitment to. I know it's to your body, but it feels like it's to golf. And you made the joke about massage being self-care. Like, I understand that you got to treat yourself, but at the same time, it feels greedy to go out, play golf, and then you tell the wife like, "Hey, I'm also going to go get a massage," and she's like,
Yeah.
"WTF?" Like,
right.
why don't I get a massage? But I mean, just listening to that myself, I'm sure that maybe some of the listeners feel this way too. But like, it sounds like a lot of time and commitment that maybe not everyone has the luxury of. So, what does that actually look like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I guess to me, I view it as an investment in myself. I know this is all taking place around golf, but I view it as an investment in my health. For me, golf serves a really interesting place in my life where it's the flywheel for a lot of other methods of improvement, if you will, right? Like that's kind of why we got to this 5 pillars thing. If you want to take a step back and look at a lot of different disciplines, there's some framework like the 5 pillars that you could take that approach. For me, the physical side, it's all about physical health. I like playing golf and getting into golf. The more golf I play, the more healthy I am typically. The more I'm working out, the more I'm dedicating time to myself and my body. And I'm not quite at 40, but I'm nearing 40. And I know it's going to be a lot harder to correct these things when they go wrong in probably the relatively near future. So I want to tackle them as much as I can today. So for me, it's actually, I think about hip functionality. It's going to have significant impact on how you move for the rest of your life, and
Totally.
how you move is how active you are. And I know I tend to be very futuristic thinking when it comes to this, and I kind of extrapolate things out further than most people do, but that's how I think about it. I think the massage thing still like feels like self-care, but the reality is I did it for a very health focused reason, and I guess that helps in the conversations with my wife, but also now my wife is getting massages, so she's happy about it too, I suppose, because it opened up the door to conversations like that, which is great. I love that for her too. Yeah, I think the
and you and I both know, Ryan, you and I both know she deserves the massages more than you do. Like,
of course she does. Absolutely she does. Absolutely. I've been telling her she needs massages, and now she's finally like, hey, if I'm gonna go get massages, she's gonna do it for herself too, which is great.
I like what you said.
That's not to say I'm taking credit for her self-care, by the way.
Yeah. I do like what you said about using golf as sort of the guise of better health in general. So like golf is your almost like a litmus test for where your body is, perhaps.
Yeah.
And so if you view it that way, it doesn't feel as indulgent as if, I'm just doing all this for golf. I mean, the people around you, the people who love you, they want you to be physically fit for a long time. And so if golf is just the method through which you do that, then I think, hopefully they would encourage you. As long as you don't abuse it, I think it's totally fine. You've broken through on the physical part. You've broken through with the hip. Do you feel it translating immediately to your score, or do you feel as though that's just the first rung of the ladder? You have to work through mechanics. How do you take that new physical condition and bring it out onto the course and actually allow that to translate into better scores?
It's totally mixed results. I think sometimes it helps me swing my swing more naturally, and I go out, and specifically in my approach game, I'll notice it. I'll be hitting more consistent distances, like really being able to control the ball, really being able to control impact or accuracy. Like that's part of it. But one of the challenges of trying to work through something as significant as this hip, I'll just call it an injury. It doesn't feel like an injury, but we'll just call it that. One of the challenges of working through something as specific as this hip injury is that the state of it changes over time when you're working on improving it, right? You have good days, you have bad days. Sometimes it's just not working in the same way, but sometimes it's just a matter of the fact that your body is changing, from 1 week to another, from 1 month to another, because you're putting this work into it. You're strengthening different parts, you're working on flexibility of different parts. And when you're not playing twice a week, 3 times a week, multiple times a week, you just kind of don't know your body and how it's going to behave until it gets to the course. So I would say, generally speaking, there's a stretch of 8 to 10 holes somewhere in the round right now where I feel really good. And then the other holes, I don't feel great, but I don't know when those holes are going to happen. I don't know if it's at the beginning of the round or the end of the round. I don't know how bad it's going to be or in what way it's not going to be great. So it's totally mixed results.
Yeah, I'd say you just said 8 to 10 holes, so pretty much 50-50. Is it 8 to 10 holes in a row, or do you feel 8 to 10 holes sparsed out?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's like 8 to 10
I find that too. And like, we talk about, so I like to walk the course, at least the one that at Rustic where I play the most, because it's a really enjoyable walk. But the back 9 there are a lot more elevation changes than the front 9, which leads to me feeling really fatigued through the back 9. And look, I think even if I was in peak physical condition, there are going to be impacts on your body where if you're walking uphill for 3 hours versus walking on a flat terrain for 3 hours, your body's going to react differently. Like I don't think it has anything to do with where you are from a physicality perspective. I think it probably amplifies if you're not as fit, but even if you are fit, that's going to have an impact. And then so I often think like, well, maybe I should take a cart. That also has its pitfalls, right? Like taking a cart, I find I get out of my rhythm. Like I'm sure with your hip, like I'm sure your hip freezes up if you sit in a cart for too long, especially if you're waiting on the tee for somebody else.
Or it just takes longer to warm up. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also like these weird like micro decisions that we make kind of really lead to different outcomes on the golf course. And then not being in tune with your body is also where those like micro decisions come from. Like maybe you would be better off walking. Maybe you would be better off riding. Maybe you would be better off taking one of those push carts as a happy medium.
I think about that a lot, actually.
Like I mean, I have one. It's great. I kind of, don't judge me. I kind of want one of the remote control ones. I never thought I would be that person, but even pushing a cart up a hill for 3 hours can be kind of
well, that's been part of the decision. Is would it be easier for my hip to have a push cart versus carry my bag? Maybe, but sometimes it is not great to push the push cart, and I don't know if that would be a better move for my hip or not, right? Maybe it would make it worse. I just don't know.
The best answer is the way that golf was meant to be played, which was, and you and I experienced this in Wisconsin, which is having a caddy.
Yeah.
Having somebody else carry the bag for you and you get to walk the course.
It's why I don't judge your robo push cart thing at all. I am all for that, actually. I have thought about that as well. They're not cheap, but actually, like, thinking through this in like the decisions that you make on the golf course, this is something I think about a lot. Maybe that would be the best way to go for me, because I love walking the course, and maybe the push cart or carrying my bag is not great for my hip. I don't know. That would put the least additional stress on my body through a round of golf.
Experiment. Okay, thought experiment here. Okay?
Yeah.
The next time you and I play together, see, this would have worked a lot better if you were still in Southern California, but
there are a lot of things that would work better if I were still in Southern California.
I want us to caddy for one another. So we take the cost out of the equation.
I love that idea.
So the player, either me or you, is going to have a physical benefit of not having to carry their bag, push a push cart, or sit in a golf cart, which we've just discussed, all kind of have, they all have their cons associated with it. I do think walking free of anything is probably the easiest way to stay in shape, stay engaged, have more direct routes to, your golf ball, so you're saving on steps, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one. Two,
yeah.
Strategy. Caddies are exceptionally helpful when it comes to strategy. So if it's a golf course you and I know well, so Rustic or Torrey Pine South or something like that, we can really help each other. And then third, and probably the biggest, I mean, we talk about the tour and we reference the tour a lot, right? But with Scotty Scheffler, like having a caddy, the right caddy, be there for you mentally can make all the difference in the world.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'm going to butcher it's Ted Scott?
I think it's Ted. Yeah, Ted Scott. Yeah.
So like the before and after picture with Ted Scott is like pretty remarkable. So again, credit to caddies out there, just how important you are and how vital to our 5 pillars they truly are. They can't really help you with the physical stuff. If you're out of shape, you're out of shape.
Right.
They can help you practice, but that's kind of on you too. It's kind of like how a doctor can help you get like get into shape, or like they can help you lose weight, but if you leave the doctor's office and eat a candy bar, like it's not going to help you. But
exactly.
they can only help you when they see you. So anyways,
I had a question for
try
you.
this out. Maybe we'll shoot, like maybe even though we're not professionals, and I'm not saying that we can do the same thing that professionals can do, because I have a lot of appreciation for professional caddies, but 2 strokes, 3 strokes, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Especially for people who know each other as well as we do, and like we've played enough golf, like we know each other's tendencies, and I think we know how to take each other's advice on the golf course and kind of communicate it in a way where we're not getting in, like, distracting the other's psychology, I think, right?
All right, this is how it's going to happen. If you next year, and we'll talk about this in another episode, because we'll talk about like next year and goals and all that.
Yeah.
I feel like you're closer than me to potentially playing in some sort of USGA tournament. If you play in one, I will come to where the tournament is and I will caddy for you.
What if it's just the local regional Carolinas Golf Association?
That's fine too.
I think that we could probably.
I'm committed to
arrange.
this.
That we could,
because
that
I
we could look
did
into
think as I was explaining that, I was like, well, that means that one of us would have to travel and then we don't get to play golf. But if it's for a tournament that I don't qualify for and you do, or vice versa, that would be kind of nice.
I think it'd be a great experience. I would love to do that on either side of it, be the player or the caddy. I think that would be awesome. I'm all for it.
It could be great. It could be a disaster. You could be throwing clubs at me by the 17th hole. We don't know.
The podcast might end. Who can say?
All right,
but I had a question for you. No, that's great. That's great. I had a question for you though, because when I said that I have a streak of 8 to 10 holes in a round that I feel really good, and I'm, physically things are working for me. You said that made sense. And what I was curious about is if that is happening for you on the mental side. Like, what is the difference on the mental side right now? Is it something akin to that it has helped you, or is it something different?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And actually, as part of the whole breakthroughs point, I think attacking holes differently has allowed me to, and I don't know if this is mental or strategy, but like, one thing I do want to talk about on this episode was there are 3 holes at Rustic, and I'm only using this example because I know it well, where I've completely changed my strategy as to how to play the holes, and I definitely feel like it has improved my outcomes on those holes. The first one is the first hole at Rustic. So what I've started to do now is I've started to favor the left side of the fairway a lot more and hit the ball almost sometimes I almost worry that I'm going to run out of space on the drive depending on the angle, but I've shifted my start line by about 10 yards. So there's this the course well, there's this bunker that's sort of 100 yards off the tee box. Doesn't really have any purpose other than maybe catching a couple strays but really for a sight line.
It's just there to mess with you.
Yeah. And my sight line initially was always just directly over that bunker, but the problem is that the native area on the right kind of cuts in a lot more than, it's very deceptive because it wants to give you that as the start line, but it's not. Anyways, so I've picked a tree.
Especially because it's OB left, right? Like that's the other thing. You can see the road where you drive into the course. Like that road is where you drive into the course, and you can see that road from the tee, and it doesn't look like it's that far away. So that is messing with you. So you're overestimating the trouble on the left and underestimating the trouble on the right is kind of how that bunker frames you.
Correct. Yeah. But for someone what I realize is that someone with a left to right shot shape, I should be favoring the left side. Yeah. Why am I favoring the right side? It makes zero sense. And thinking I'm going to hit a straight ball or miraculously hit a draw with my driver, which I've literally never done. So yeah, so I started anyways.
So if you do, it's a really bad shot and you just got to shake it off and move on, right? Like that would be how it works.
And what I've been loving, by the way, is being on the left side of the fairway and being able to use the left side of that barranca that protects the green. And I just hit a 3-wood up there, and there's so much landing area left of the green that I don't even have to hit a great one. If I hit a great one, fantastic. If I hit an okay one, like I'm still 40 yards, and so like a chip and a putt for birdie. So I've definitely knocked on average 2 strokes off that hole by playing it this way. And then 7, which has always like been a big bogey hole for me. I've actually been driving it over the bank. It really depends on where they set up the blue tees that day. But the other way I've been going that I really like is going to the left. And so I've totally changed my approach on that one. And then the last one is on 12, which is the short, 12,
short
which
par
is the
four,
short par
right?
4 on the back 9. I always wanted to cut the angle and go over the tree and try to like drive the green effectively. But there are these really sneaky bunkers that are there, and it really leaves you, if you overcook it to the left, it really leaves you with a tough angle into the green. So what I've told myself now is go straight or even slightly right of the center of the center of the fairway. And because it's like a very sharp dog-leg left, that leaves me with like, and the green sort of follows that. If you put it just out in the center of the fairway, you have a straight on view of the green as opposed to like coming at it from an angle. So that's also been, and that green is so hard to land. So anyways, those 3 holes, I've changed my approach a lot, and it's been very, very helpful. Oh, and sorry, 4th one was 18. 18, I've just been going like, again, all the way, same as 1, just all the way to the left. Stop trying to.
I had to learn that one recently too. Yeah.
So those are so when I like breaking through is sort of like resetting mentally on certain holes that have been giving me a lot of trouble over the years that I've played those, and stopping and saying, why am I continuing to just do the same thing over and over again and, make the same mistakes? There are times where even if I make those changes, obviously I don't execute, and that's fine because I'm not a professional golfer. But I feel like it does leave me in a better position than what my leave would be if on my old strategy. And that does factor into the mental part a lot. So those and this is a long, I'm coming all the way back around. This is a long answer to your question. But what really used to get me on those holes, like mentally, that, half the holes were good and half the holes were bad, whereas if I had a inevitable like bogey or double bogey or something on a hole that I usually feel comfortable on. Again, to use Russ's example, 6, par 3, punch bowl green, no reason, like bogey's a fine score, par is very manageable, but you really shouldn't be doubling or tripling it. Of course I have. And then you step on the tee box.
That one gets me too.
It's a really tough place to be. So mentally, trying to like reconstruct those holes that are sort of your problem holes, for me, allowed me to break that cadence of just always feeling like I can't get past this mark. So that has helped me mentally. There's other mental problems that I'm still working through, but like knowing a course, there's not enough that can be said about knowing a course. Like even if it's the first time you're going to play a place, like, we went to play Erin Hills in Wisconsin. You know how much research you and I did about that place before we went there? Like there's so much that can be learned from the internet now, that like just go in with a plan. You know?
Yeah. And even like all that Erin Hills work, I probably really only remembered 4 or 5 holes, and then you still have to get the feel for it while you're there. But for those 4 or 5 holes, I was much more comfortable than the rest, right? The rest of it, I was really just relying on my caddy. But you brought up a really good point when you talked about the transition from 6 to 7 at Rustic, I thought, where, you make that double on 6 and you're like, that's not that hard of a hole. But for some reason, I made a little bit of a mess of it there. That just kind of puts you into fight or flight mode on the 7T because you don't like that hole in the first place. And as much as you want to just forget about 6 and move on to 7 mentally, it's hard to, even for the most advanced golfers, to like drop it, right? It's easy to overcorrect or just not get it completely out of your head and move forward. But if you have that plan, it helps you stay a little even keel, right? And it's like anything else. If you're going into your fight or flight mode, because you're out of position 3 or 4 holes in a row early in the round, you're just going to get mentally exhausted from thinking about shots in a way that you didn't really want to think about them, or, it's going to make you disappointed because you get a couple shots behind where you normally are by the hole 7, things like that. So I think it's a really important point around the mental piece and how strategy feeds into the mental piece. I like that. That insight a lot.
I think the overcorrection is something that I was really fighting, because I would double that hole and then immediately I would pull out driver because I feel like I have to get a par on this next one, even though bogey is probably it is a totally fair score on that
Right.
hole. So to your point, and then by the way, you're not
But you
making
start
you're not
pressing.
making a great driver swing because you're so concerned about hitting this perfect, right?
Yep.
So it's not a free swing. And so being able to reset and be like, all right, let's go back to what was my strategy here again? Okay, I'm going to hit a 4 hybrid to this mart, and then I'm just going to trust a wedge, and that's like the way home from here, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like, okay, I got to carry this Barranca. It's 260 to carry it. I got to hit this perfect. So like, I got to get my elbow in, and I got to shift my weight. And it's like you got to find something that's just going to work for you in that moment. I also want to talk about this because I thought I was onto something earlier in the season where I was playing this quote unquote game on the scorecard where I was circling certain holes that I felt were bogey holes and just saying, I'm basically one up or one down based on what holes I've circled on that scorecard. Now, there are different variations of how to play this. Some people say, okay, play to your par, right? And maybe your par is 90. That's different than what I was doing. So playing to your par of 90, let's say, means you're not trying to score you're not trying to hit certain scores on certain holes. You just want the aggregate score to be in and around 90. What I was doing was saying, you need to hit 5 on this. You need to hit 4 on this. That was a terrible idea for someone at my skill level because inevitably I would hit a 6 or a 7. And then I was like, oh shit, I have to like really play catch up now.
Yeah.
And I think that becomes so I abandoned that strategy. Maybe it works for some people, but it also goes to show like you're never going to figure it out with just like the first thing that you do. You definitely have to try multiple things. I thought when I first did that, it helped me the first round I played, and then the next 3 it was terrible. So something I looked at, I abandoned. But it's just like you gotta, it's a trial and error sort of game in a lot of respects. So
yeah, you got to find some way to approach the framing that works for your own individual psychology, right? So
do you ever feel like you like plateau? Like you get these breakthroughs, right? And then all of a sudden you're just hitting a point in your golf game where you're just like, how do I get through this? Like how I sort of I broke down those holes. Okay, great. You broke down those holes. Now you're still averaging somewhere between a par and a bogey on that hole, but in order to get better, you have to, on those par fives, you have to try to get it to be between a birdie and a par. When you hit those plateaus, like what do you do? What do you look to do? Like what is there a pillar that you pull on? Is it something else?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. This actually goes back to when I was playing at Torrey Pines a lot because that's really the first course that I played on a regular basis that was that difficult strategically where I could get to know different holes, but I also was committed to playing there a lot. So I could say, I want my game to be able to perform on this course. And one of the big things for me, it's the par 5 example is actually right for me. There were some par 5s that I was like, I should be looking to birdie these or get down there in 2. But I had, at the time, I had a 3-wood that was just like a bottle rocket, right? It was just low, it was fast, and I had a hard time controlling where it went after I made contact, right? So like it would get off to a good start line, but then it would curve right, curve left, not in a big like hook or draw way, but it was just unpredictable. And what I found is I just had the wrong shaft. I just had the wrong equipment. So that led me back to revisiting club fitting for that 3-wood, going to something that would have a different ball flight and would land more softly so that I could have more looks at eagle, or at least have a more predictable landing area for my shot. Because my shot dispersion with the old 3-wood was, 70 yards from left to right, which is just unacceptable when you're trying to hit a green in 2, right? So that was one way to approach it. I think the other is just knowing like, hey, I've got this par 3 that gives me trouble and I don't understand how to play downhill 2 clubs into the wind, right? If you have a kind of a crazy hole like that, you might just have to do some reading on strategy. How do people play these? Do I need to learn how to hit a knockdown 6-iron that I never needed to know before? Like, what is really going on here? How do I judge the wind better? Look at those types of things. Like, there might be some actual almost textbook style learning that would relate to strategy, but also you might need to practice it as well because you just might not have that shot. So I all that is to say, I look for specific things that happen over and over and try to attack those. And sometimes it's about one shot. It's not usually, because, if you need to learn how to hit one shot, there's probably some other things that come with that. The equipment thing is probably true for a number of people that are trying to make the jump from, I'd say, a mid-level to a single-digit level. Like, that is something that if you have that shot 2 or 3 times around it, that could be 2 or 3 shots on your handicap if you figure it out.
Yeah, the equipment pillar is a tricky one because given how expensive golf equipment is, you probably don't get to pull that lever as many times as any of the other levers. I mean, if you
don't want to,
money's not an issue to you, then sure, whatever. But like the biggest question I often get from people who are learning the game or want to get better, who aren't as who are 20 handicaps, is like, when should I go get fit? And there is an argument to be made that if you're a 20 handicap, there's probably a lot more mechanical improvements that you should be making before you get fit. But you could even argue about that for someone who is a 10 handicap. And so like if we're always practicing and always tweaking and always, then, you could get fit for something that might work with a swing, that you have in 2025, and it may not be a great swing in 2026. Right. And so, I mean, I've had that problem. Like 5 years ago, my swing was totally different. I really thought I unlocked something, and then all of a sudden I lost it, and then I couldn't hit my clubs anymore, and I had to basically relearn how to hit my irons and my woods, frankly. But the equipment one is a really tricky one. I do think, like in your case, given where you were, that probably was the right move. But you
have to be really committed to a course in that situation, though. Like I was. That's the only way I'd make a move like that.
Well, no, I would actually argue that was a good move for you regardless, because you have the length off the tee to get home in most, I wouldn't say most par fives, but like a lot of par fives out there, right? Mm-hmm. And so what is the purpose of you pulling out a 3-wood on a course? For you, it's to get home in 2 on a par 5. And if you need to hold a green, then you want something that has a higher launch, potentially higher spin than what you described as your bottle rocket. For me, I sometimes can't get off the tee. So I need that bottle rocket 3-wood more than I need.
Because you're more focused on the distance. And
I'm trying to maximize distance with my 3-wood.
Yep.
So those are 2 totally different purposes as to why we use a 3-wood.
Yeah.
So I actually think, yes, you did tailor it to your needs for Torrey Pines, but even playing in North Carolina now, like you're going to have opportunities where you're trying to get home in 2, and you now have the club to go do it.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. It's been interesting to get to know different courses and such here. And I'm eager to, in a future episode, talk about all the different places I've played. I think that'll be, especially since that was tied into my goals this year. But it has been interesting to see where I've thought about, swapping out my 5-wood for a muscle back driving iron 3-wood, something like that too. So I've
tweaked with all of that, by the way. I had a 2-iron at one point. I had a utility iron at one point. Like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm telling you, people from experience. Like, don't just go buying new equipment because you think that that's what you need. It's probably not.
Right.
It's like I feel like waiting on equipment until you really know what it is that you're looking for. If you go into a fitter and you're like, I just can't hit the ball, they're just going to tell you to go get a lesson. Well, they may not tell you that because they'll probably like, perfect, I can sell this $1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're probably licking their lips when someone comes in and says that. But no, I'm telling you, like, as someone who's gone and done it, like, just hold off because you don't get to fire that bullet that much. But anyways, should we go to Saticoy?
Yeah, let's talk about Saticoy. So,
do you want to talk about the other rounds you had in Southern California while you were here?
So the only other one was around at Rustic. It was before Saticoy. It was a round where I started off. My hip felt pretty good.
Yeah.
and I think I was actually like 1 under through 5 or something like
There you
that.
go.
Like I started out really well. I might have been 1 over through 5. Anyway, either way, like I started out pretty well. I was feeling good. And speaking of strategy, I have a hard time figuring out the tee shot on 4 now, that par 3. I just can't get the distance right because I feel like one club, if I don't hit the right line, I'm going to shoot it over the green. Another one, I come up short. So I think it's turned from a strategy problem to a mental problem for me, but I won't play it again for like another year. So I'm going to not worry about that. But I thought you might find it silly that I'm having problems with that hole along with some of our listeners.
I've had problems with that hole too. I mean, there are a lot of holes at Rustic that are problematic, and the annoying thing about it is the first time or second time you play it, you're like, oh, this is easy. Like, you know,
yeah, that's right.
4 is a great.
It's one of the more straightforward holes on the
it.
course. Yeah, exactly. That's why it's such a great course, right? The easy holes can become hard holes, and the hard holes can become easy holes.
Totally.
But anyway, I didn't have a great round after that, though. I really struggled. I think I made 1 par after the 5th hole. Hip was a little bit of an issue. I think I got to this point on this trip, too. Maybe I realized this shortly after the trip when I came back. I think the hip is impacting my mental game as well. It's hard. It's becoming hard to stay locked in. It feels like something that's outside of my control and arises when in times where I just can't anticipate it. And it's heartbreaking is a strong word, but it's really dissatisfying when I start off a round as good as I did at Rustic and then just can't even feel like I can get the club face on the ball.
Do you feel like it
in a normal way?
Or do you feel yourself overcompensating with sway? What's the feeling like?
It either gets stuck behind me or the whole right side of my body feels locked up, and then I turn my right hip gets in the way of my hands, and then I'm trying to either race my hands ahead of the hip or they're falling behind the hip and I get a pull in there. I've been hitting a lot of strong pulls, which is not ideal for somebody who hits a fade. So it brings a little bit of a double miss in there. I get uncomfortable. I'm just kind of tired and dissatisfied by, in this case, like by 12, 13, 14, I was just kind of ready for the round to be over, but trying to enjoy myself. But it was, it wasn't my best round. Didn't finish particularly strong either, but I was just reminded of, how much I love that course, though. Rustic's great. I walked away with an 88. My putting was decent, which is always a thing at Rustic, and it's not the strongest part of my game, so I was happy about that. I think I only had 1 3-putt, which, Rustic, the greens are big, they're fast. I was okay with it, but I also, I don't know, I think I hit like 4 greens in regulation. It was just terrible. So a lot of chipping.
Well,
close.
I always thought the greens at Rustic were hard, and then we played Saticoy. And
oh my goodness. It was Saticoy Club.
It was brutal. Great course, great condition, really fun track, a lot of elevation changes, but really challenging. I actually looked this up. I think it's actually ranked as one of the hardest courses in California, like the entire state of California.
Yeah.
There are not many courses. I mean, I know this is from the tips, but I think it does translate down a little bit. 74.6 rating, 138 slope. I think that that's got to be one of the hard, other than the tour courses out there, that's pretty hard.
I don't understand how the slope rating is not higher on this course
because it's not
for any set of tees. For any set of tees, is it really just because of the distance? Because that course was so much harder than what I thought the course rating and the slope rating were indicating. It was roughly equal to the blues at Rustic, I think, where we played, which is hard, but it's not that hard. I don't know. How much did you know about Saticoy Club before we played there? And what did you know?
There isn't much online about it. So in terms of the whole course knowledge, and a course that hard, by the way, I know I'm going to go back against something that I said earlier, but it almost felt as though as much in internet research you could do on the place, you got to play it. It's really tricky and a lot of sneaky little Easter eggs for you out there all over the place.
It's a lot like going to a really fancy, highly rated restaurant, right? you can read all about it that you want, but you have to go there and experience it to really understand what people are describing.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. And what I would say too is it didn't really necessarily feel like it was just the greens that were getting us, because that was certainly part of it. I felt like I couldn't hold a green to save my life with some of these approach shots, but it was pretty skinny off the tee. There are a couple places where you can spray it, but not a ton. But it still felt long because you couldn't hold any of the greens with your approach shot. So like you would hit a great shot, false front, roll back down 50 yards, you're pitching up to a blind pin. You have no idea where to land this because your last shot that you landed, was woefully short. So it's you got to know where to hit it on that course.
I think I underestimated what I was walking into, because even though I heard tough championship course, it's the same designer as Torrey Pines, I believe, right? So
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it was built in the same era. I was doing some research on this. I was always confused, by the way, for anybody who's familiar with the region, why there are two Saticoy golf courses.
Yeah, why is that?
There's the Saticoy Regional that's, I think it's 9 holes, or like, as far as I know, it's a bit of a like a public beater course.
Yeah.
And then there's the Saticoy Club. And I was like, why are there two courses called Saticoy that are so incredibly different from each other? Turns out this was the Ventura County Country Club is the original club. Okay. And they hired George Thomas, if I'm getting the name correctly, the guy who did LACC, to build the first course, which is what is now the Saticoy Regional Public Golf Course.
Okay.
At some point, they wanted a tougher course, and they hired the guy who built Torrey Pines, William P. Bell. I can't remember. One of the Bells. The father is, it must have been the son, because it was in the 1950s, and they built the Saticoy Club. And he built this, and he thought, like, I'm gonna make this really difficult championship golf course, and he did. I think it threw me off because Torrey Pines is a tough golf course, but it's not impossible. It is a public golf course. It has a lot of green space. It wraps around the canyon. It has the wind, all that, right, off the ocean. There's some elements that come into play.
And let's be honest. When the pros play there, what makes it the hardest part is the rough. That really gets
the rough is incredibly exactly.
The regular person who goes and plays there is not playing it nearly as in tough conditions as it could be played in.
Yeah. Generally speaking, unless you visit in January, right, sure, before the tournament. But this course was not like Torrey. I didn't find any specific tie-ins to Torrey Pines. It felt like a wholly different beast. Dramatic elevation changes, severely sloped greens, to your point, lightning fast, trees in the middle of the fairway. There was some really quirky and cool stuff going on there. I liked it a lot, but man, it ate my lunch that day for sure.
I have to say, so we played the combos. We played the blue-white combos when we went and played, just because, again, it was our first time, and we didn't want to bite off more than we could chew. I mean, shame on us. Still, we probably should just played the whites.
And again, I'm going to emphasize, I thought that we were basically playing the equivalent of the blues at Rustic. It was so much harder than that. I don't understand this course rating and slope rating at all. Yeah. This is crazy.
So I went again a second time with a friend and played the straight up blues, even though I told him, I know you play blues wherever you play. Like, we're gonna get beat up out here if we play the blues. And he was like, no, let's play them. Got destroyed. Like the added distance doesn't even feel that much, but somehow it like really amplifies. Like, again, to go to the slope rating point, it's just like every 20 yards back is just, it feels different. Like, it's especially when you're now hitting a 6-iron into a tricky green as opposed to an 8-iron. Like, those things matter,
Yeah, they really do.
It really does matter. So anyways, maybe it's my next challenge is to get better at that course. I mean, clearly, I just need to break. I think I just need to break 100 to get better at it. Frankly, I think I shot over 100 both times.
I think maybe it is a situation where you just play up until you hit a score, right? And then you move back.
It made me think, Ryan, and I wonder if you've ever felt this way. Like, clearly I started off this episode by talking about some breakthroughs.
Yeah.
It made me think, like, can I really only shoot that well at one course? Like, can I really only break 90 at Rustic? And it got me thinking more about how does one build a golf game that can travel? And that's something that I would love. I think everybody would love. I mean,
Yeah.
there are courses, to your point, where you can gauge similarities and you can feel like, okay, like I understand what's going on here. Like, you talked about, Torrey Pines, like, you can, even someone who hasn't played, I haven't played as much as you. It took me like 3 times to really feel like I got the hang of it. And then, maybe when I would go play it the next time, I'll have even a better understanding of it. But I mean, like, there is definitely, like, obviously the first time you go play anywhere, you're never going to shoot your best score on that on that course. There is something sometimes where I think like ignorance might be a gift. Like the first time I went and played, gosh, where was it? The first time I went and played Bel Air CC, I think I actually did shoot my best score there ever. And that's not an easy course either.
Right.
It is a par 70, but yeah, whatever.
Well, that came up on this course, I think, too, right? Like, I did underestimate the course. It was challenging, but especially after I got off to a bad start and I just knew I wasn't going to shoot a score, and we had a match, and I was like, I'm just going to hang in there and try some things. And we got to 16, which is the hole that the Golfer's Journal did a video on, right?
Yeah.
It's this
Yeah.
relatively short par 4, kind of uphill
bunker to this certain plateau. Otherwise, it'll go back 60 yards down the hill. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't know that. Like, you told me that they did this feature on this, and this was it. And you're like, this is the hole where the Golfer's Journal thing was. And I was like, okay, cool. And I don't know. Like, I didn't remember exactly what you told me before. It just didn't stick in my memory, which is no fault to you.
Right, Nick. Exactly. That's what you want me to do.
But like, I didn't watch the video, so it didn't mean anything. It was all like theoretical, and I was just like, oh, I think I see the landing spot there. And I just went for it, and I hit a great drive, and I landed it in the exact spot you were supposed to. But because I didn't really understand the question being asked there, and I did what I normally do through my process, I just hit a good shot that I was confident in, and didn't get psyched out, didn't get put in a position that maybe the architect wanted me to be in there by getting psyched out.
Sounds like you got lucky, though, because it sounds like you executed perfectly, and golf is not about executing perfectly. It's about like managing and controlling your mistakes.
I probably got a little bit lucky.
On that hole could have really cost you. So you did a good job on that hole, but like on the next hole, right, where 17, where you have that huge elevated tee box down into the valley. It's actually a really long par 4. You thought you didn't have any space on the left. You get down there, you're like, oh my god, it's totally open on the left, and there's a speed slot on the left.
Yeah,
you ended up hitting it off onto the right side of the hill, which you really had to take sort of more of a penalty shot to get off of that hill, if I remember correctly.
I think it was just a bad shot, but yeah, to your point, I could have been in a different place. I could have been in a different place. You're right. Sometimes it and I think that's the challenge of playing a new course. Like, sometimes it works to your benefit because you're just like, grip it and rip it, baby. And sometimes you do that and you're in the wrong spot and you're totally boned on your approach, right? And that's just how it goes on new courses. But I would say,
even the second time I played it so differently. On 16, for instance, 16 I actually parred because I hit 3-wood instead of a driver, so that it landed in the spot where the driver would have rolled back to. So I wasn't discouraged by hitting a driver that I saw then roll back. I hit a 3-wood to get to that same spot. And yeah, sure, that left me 140 yards in, but that's a comfortable 9-iron. So I hit a 9-iron in, just committed to that swing. Ended up, I think the pin was in the back. It bounced just a little bit off the back of the green, but a much better place than a lot of places you can actually be, just given how wonky that green is. And I 2-putted from off the green and then on 18, what I realized was the first time we played it, we tried to go over that bunker. Which can
you describe 18 first, because this hole is crazy. So describe the hole real quick.
Okay, so it's the finishing.
It's a great finishing hole.
It's probably 588 from the blues, definitely more than 600 from the tip.
It's so long. And it's such a long hole.
And it is uphill. It's not uphill on your first shot, but every other shot after that is uphill.
It's like the second half of the hole for sure. Probably a little more.
The left-hand side of your landing area off your tee shot is guarded by a fairway bunker And then on the right side for your approach shot, there's a Saticoy tree that blocks out the green. So if you're on the right side of the fairway for your approach shot, you have zero shot at the green, like none whatsoever. So the first time we played it, I hit something that came up short of the fairway bunker, played it kind of to the middle of the fairway, almost had to contend with the tree a little bit, but I hit a great 6-iron that I think went over the tree, or it sort of just cut around the tree a little bit.
Yeah. It was a great shot. It was probably the best shot you hit all day.
It was the best shot I hit all day, and I think I got par. But this time I played it totally differently because I think I got a little lucky there by hitting a great 6-iron. So I actually hit the tee shot all the way out to the right, so like completely away from the fairway bunker. So that left me all this room to go all the way to the left on my second shot, so that my approach shot, I wasn't even close to that Saticoy tree.
How was the approach from there?
It was fine because there was nothing in my way. And it was just like an uphill. Nice. It was just like an uphill approach shot. You also realize it's a 3-shot par 5. You're never going to get there in 2, or I'm not going to get there in 2. There's so much room to land it right, like so much room to land it right, and then you only have to hit 150 or 160 yard shot to where you want to get for your approach shot. So it's not a high pressure shot. Plus, there's nothing around. So even if you pull it or push it doesn't really matter that much. And then you just have to commit to another 150 yard shot onto the green. And by the way, that green is also guarded by bunkers. Of course it is.
Of course it is.
600 yard par 5. Why wouldn't it be guarded by bunkers? And it's an elevated green.
Okay, so now that you played there a couple times, what is your favorite hole on that course?
I think
the reason I ask, because just for the listeners, every hole on this course was remarkable. You could do a deep dive on every single hole on this course. It was beautiful. It was challenging.
I really like the 14, 15, 16 stretch. 14 is a really nice hole. That's the
14's the one along the canyon
with the canyon off the left.
Yeah,
it's very pretty. 14, very challenging.
This is kind of a crazy comparison, but I think I told you that years ago when I was traveling, like backpacking around South America, I was in Bolivia and played at I think it's the La Paz Country Club. It's the highest altitude golf course in the world in Bolivia. Okay. And when I played there, one, the ball, like you're at such high altitude, the ball goes 2 clubs further. It was crazy. But the other is that it was built up around these little canyons, and they almost looked like, I don't know, lunar landscapes on the side of the course. That hole at Saticoy is the only hole I've ever been on that reminded me of that experience, where you're just looking off and you're like, man, that looks like the surface of the moon or something, like something from outer space over there. I just thought it was absolutely beautiful, and the hole wraps around there. It's got that bunker that kind of forces you off to the right, which forced me too far off to the right on my tee shot. But yeah, I agree. That was a really interesting hole. Par 5, right?
Yeah, I think you know what? I wouldn't be shocked if they played as a par 4 during tournaments, though.
Could be, because it wasn't super long, right?
No, it's just uphill, so you have to just add yardage from that perspective. But
yeah,
no, I mean, big hitters can easily get there in 2.
Mm-hmm.
So what's next on the docket? I mean, we got any travel plans coming up? You planning to play any golf here towards the end of the season? What are you working on next?
Working on my original goal from the year of playing 15 different new golf courses. Which,
how many now?
I'm at 13 or 14. I'm pretty close.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty close. I've been making a run at the new courses here.
Have you gone to Tobacco Road yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. I was about to be upset if you went to Tobacco Road and didn't tell me, because I know you were planning to go when you had a little time off work.
Yeah, no, I didn't make it down there. I wasn't able to do that, unfortunately, but I'll get there soon. I did go down. I played at a course nearby there that was nice, and it's kind of outside of the triangle area called Carolina Trace. It's down in the town of Sanford is where Tobacco Road and Carolina Trace are. And it was, there was like nobody there. It was like a Friday morning or Thursday morning, I think. And there was nobody there. And I just walked to the course. It took me 3.5 hours. And I was like, this is a fantastic round of golf. I wish I could walk a golf course in 3.5 hours every time. But yeah, we'll cover a little bit more about those rounds in the future. I'm eager to talk about my learnings about North Carolina golf and how it compares to the different trips I've been able to make this year, but it's winding down soon. It's winding down. The days are getting shorter. I just started a new job, so that creates different time constraints, but still trying to make plans for what it looks like in the future to accomplish some of these goals.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, I mean, yeah, luckily for me, there's probably still a few months of golf left here in Southern California until I think you can very comfortably play golf here until Thanksgiving. And then you can still play, it's just not as comfortable.
Yeah.
January is the worst month, but really we're splitting hairs here.
It's really not that bad if you're right next to the coast.
By the way, back on your 3.5-hour round, did I tell you about my round in Hawaii when we did the family trip last month?
You did. How fast did you play?
I played in under 2 hours. This is how golf was meant to be played. You go out, you make a tee time for the first tee time available. You just either slip the guy $10 or like just say, hey man, you mind if I just go out before my group is supposed to tee off? And he says, yeah, sure, go. I don't care. And then you go and you just hit a quick one off the first tee so no one sees you, and you just gun it and you're done in 2 hours. And frankly, it was the best. I mean, I didn't play my best golf and I still shot an 85. Like you're
just in rhythm. You're in the zone.
You're just in a rhythm. You're not waiting on anybody. You're not you're not even waiting on your playing partners.
It's more of a sport, right? You're just an athlete. You just show up, you hit your ball, you move on. You don't have time to overthink it all.
In fact, I had to slow down because I was going too fast. I felt my heart rate was getting too elevated when I had two back-to-back bogey holes. Or like, I say bogey hole, I mean like a hole I messed up. I still, even though I slowed down on the back nine, I still finished in under 2 hours.
That's awesome.
The wind, though, cool. Man, in Hawaii, it's a factor.
That is a pro golf dad move if they're ever vacation move. Pro golf dad vacation move. Get out there, play your round quickly, get back to the family, brag to your friends about it. I love it.
Totally. And shoot an 85. I mean, if I shot at 95, right? I probably wouldn't have been.
And lower your handicap. No big deal.
And lower my handicap. But yeah, look, I mean, other stuff. I mean, we didn't really touch on it this much this episode, but I did get new wedges. I do want to spend some time maybe on another episode talking about some of the equipment changes I've been making. I changed my putting grip. That was at the beginning of the season, but now that I have enough data to talk about it, I kind of want to talk about it. I got new wedges. I changed from the Vokey SM9s to the Cleveland RTXs, and I've yet to play around with them, but when I was getting fit for them, I don't know, I really liked the feel of them. They were super soft. They have this full face groove technology, which is pretty cool for just generating more spin. I never felt this way about wedges, but I definitely feel this way about irons. Is like, are these the right, like, am I supposed to be playing the same stuff that pros play? You know what I mean? Like, we say that about irons, but we almost never say that about wedges. I was like, why is that? And so that was sort of part of the.
That is a great question. And I think that's a great way. Maybe we approach the next episode with that question in mind. Like, should we be playing the same things the pros are playing? I think there's some valid and probably more nuanced answers to that question that have come through our experience. So that is a starting point for that conversation about your wedges.
We play the same driver heads, the same wedges, and the same putters effectively.
Right.
Why do we make this? Why are irons the only ones that are differentiated? That's so strange. And sometimes they're not even differentiated, frankly.
Sometimes they're not. All right, Nick, let's wrap this one up, and we'll talk about that next time. Roll the credits.
All right. Get you on the next episode of The Low Point.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Low Point. If you like what you heard, please subscribe or leave a review. If you want to learn more, you can check us out at thelowpointpod.com. We'll be back soon with another episode. Until next time, be kind to yourself and enjoy the process.